Welcome to my channel Techify with Adil. So today in this video we will be discussing about Entra ID. So this is formerly was called as Azure AD, which can be compared with our on-premises Active Directory ADDS. So let us see about this topic today. So understanding the Microsoft Entra ID will be the first topic. Under this, Microsoft Entra ID is a part of PaaS service. That is a platform as a service. So offering operates as a Microsoft managed directory in the cloud. So since it's is a PaaS service, so we customers or as a users we own and manage. It's not the part of that, so we cannot do managing it. So it's provided by, it's a service, as a service is provided from the Microsoft, and so we don't need to worry about any infrastructure managing, and we don't need to deploy dedicated resources to maintain this service. So with Microsoft Entra ID you can have access to set features that aren't natively available in ADDS. Say in ADDS, if you want to set up multi-factor authentication, we must be using Active Directory Federation services, or we must go for any third-party services like Okta and so on. So here in Azure AD, that's Entra ID, we have this services available. So we just can use these features from the Entra ID, like multi-factor authentication. We can use then identity protection, then self-service password reset. So users, when they forget their passwords, they can do a self-service reset based on the permissions we have given to the users. Then we can use the Microsoft Entra ID to provide more secure access to cloud-based resources for organizations and individuals. So these are the services or features available, so that to use secure access to the cloud-based resources. Configuring access to the applications, then SSO, single sign-on to cloud-based SaaS applications, then managing users and groups, then provisioning new users, enabling federation between the organizations. So enabling federation between organizations meaning allowing different organizations to collaborate seamlessly across their respective digital ecosystems, so they can have communications within different organizations. Then providing an identity management solution. So to provide identity management solution, like creating a system that ensures secure access and management of digital identities, which is very important, like user authentication, authorization, then IGA, identity governance and administration, directory services. So federations, all this comes under this feature. Then identifying irregular sign-in activity. So based on users regular activity of locations or devices, we can set a pattern, and when there is an irregularity, then it can based on the rules we have set up, either it creates a flag, or it will block the access, or it just sends a notification. So we can assign that as well. Then configuring the MFA, multi-factor authentication, then extending the existing on-premises Active Directory implementations to Microsoft Entra ID. So it's like using your current on-premises AD, and with the features of the cloud Entra ID feature. So you are implementing the cloud Entra ID features, integrating the on-premises AD with the cloud identity management features. So this allows you to leverage the benefits of cloud-based identity management while maintaining your existing infrastructure. So we just no need to move or change our existing infrastructure. We just keep using our existing infrastructure with the features of Entra ID, something like a hybrid version. Then configuring the application proxy for cloud and local applications, then conditional access for users and devices. So Microsoft Entra constitutes a separate Azure service, its most elementary form, which any new Azure subscription includes automatically, doesn't incur any extra cost, and is referred to as the free tier. So like if you have any if you're subscribing to any of the Microsoft Azure subscriptions like Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Intune, you default get the free tier of the Microsoft Entra ID. So there's also a paid version that's called basic and also premium, which has additional features, some advanced features of identity management features in the paid versions. But if you'll be still getting the basic free version, which is going to have all the essential features that gets along with your subscription of any Microsoft Azure subscriptions. So here you can see in this picture, the centering point of access is here, Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So from here you can extend the service support to the on-premises, as I mentioned in the previous slide, to have the on-premises infrastructure, but we are using the feature of Azure AD. And here as extending support to the web applications and for the other SaaS applications. So the features, as we mentioned, single sign-on, then self-service, then also normal connection to the applications. So it acts as a single center point of access, supporting all these features and providing the services. So some of the more advanced identity features, management features require paid versions of Microsoft Entra ID, as mentioned, offered in the form of basic and premium tier. So we have three tiers here: free tier, basic, and premium tier. So important thing to note for exam point of view. Then some of these applications are also automatically included in Microsoft Entra instances generated as part of M365 subscriptions. So implementing Microsoft Entra ID isn't the same as deploying the virtual machines in Azure. So adding ADDS and then deploying some domain controllers for the new forests and domains is the normal way of implementing in our on-premise ID. So implementing the Entra ID isn't the same way of deploying, like we need a separate machine and all, because Entra ID is a PaaS service. It's a service provided by Microsoft, so it's we don't manage any infra related things, and we don't need to be maintaining it. So it's all controlled by Microsoft, so we just utilize the service. So Microsoft Entra ID is a different service, much more focused on providing identity management services to web-based apps. Unlike the ADDS is more focused on on-premise, like since it's an on-premise deployment, and it's more focused on the on-premise thing. So Microsoft Entra is main focus, is primary focus is on web-based, and still it can be, the features can be used for managing your on-premises as well. So next, unlike your ADDS, Microsoft Entra ID is a multi-tenant by design, and is implemented specifically to ensure isolation between its individual directory instances. So it's a multi-tenant connection. So here tenant in general, for easy understanding, we can compare the tenant to a company or organization. So generally in ADDS, if we're on premises, for each company or each organization, they will have their own separate set of ADDS the services. It cannot be having a multi connection, multi-organizational ADDS unless if you want bridging, then we can use this federations to have connections with the different organizations. But Microsoft Entra by design itself is a multi-tenant design. So it's the world's largest multi-tenancy directory, hosting over 1 million directory services instances with billions of authentication requests per week. So it handles billions of authentication requests per week. The term tenant in this context typically represents a company or organization that designed up for a subscription to the Microsoft cloud-based service such as M365, Intune, and or Azure, each of which service uses Microsoft Entra ID. From the technical standpoint, the term tenant represents an individual Microsoft Entra instance. This is the technical representation for Microsoft Entra ID. Then having the multiple Microsoft Entra tenants might be convenient if you want to test Microsoft Entra functionality in one tenant without affecting the others. So you can have a separate Microsoft Entra tenants, so that you can use it for all your testing kinds and just implement it in the production tenant, so that you don't have any issues, like if anything go wrong with your testing tenant, so it doesn't affect your production. At any given time, an Azure subscription must be associated with one and only one Microsoft Entra tenant. So this is a very important thing. So every Azure subscription must be associated with only one tenant at a given point of time. You cannot have multiple tenants to the Azure connector, because Azure subscriptions is like a logical container that is provisioned and managed resources in Azure. So it's a logical container. So each subscription must be associated with single Microsoft Entra tenant at any time. So it cannot have multiple things. So this association is essential for managing identities and permissions and so on. So as we see in everything. So the important point here to remember is your Azure subscription must be associated with a single Microsoft tenant only. This association allows you to grant permission resources in the Azure subscription role-based access control. So to users, groups, and application that exist in the particular Microsoft tenant. So each Microsoft subscription tenant is assigned the DNS domain name consisting of a unique prefix. So the prefix derived from the name of Microsoft account you use to create the Azure subscription, or providing explicitly when creating a Microsoft Entra tenant, is followed by onmicrosoft.com suffix. So when you're creating the tenant, so based on the Microsoft account you're using, when you're creating the subscription, based on the account you're using, it will be using it as a prefix, default as a prefix, or you can still have a customized one. While you create the Microsoft tenant, you can use that customized name followed as a prefix, then it will be followed by onmicrosoft.com as a suffix for your name of the tenant. Then adding at least one custom domain name to the same Entra tenant is possible and common. We can have of minimum one. This name utilizes DNS domain namespace that the corresponding company or organization owns. So the Microsoft Entra tenant serves as the security boundary and a container for Microsoft Entra objects such as users, groups, and applications. A single Microsoft Entra tenant can support multiple Azure subscriptions. So earlier we have seen that every subscription must be associated with one and only Microsoft Entra tenant. So here the other way around, a single Microsoft tenant can support multiple subscriptions. So hope you understand the difference. So single subscription can be connected to only one tenant, but the other way, the tenants can support multiple Azure subscriptions. But commonly the usage will be like tenant A will have subscription for will be under the subscription 1. So tenant B will be connected linked to the subscription 2. Tenant C will be connected to the subscription 3, and if they need to be interconnected or they want to access each other, then there will be a federation set up to do the interconnections. That will be the most common basic structure. Then Microsoft Entra schema. So the Microsoft Entra schema contains fewer object types than the ADDS, which makes it simpler to work and also understand. So moreover, it doesn't include a definition for computer class, although it does include the device classes. The process of joining the devices in Microsoft Entra differs considerably different from the joining computers to ADDS. Is different from joining the computer. So in the joining computer to ADDS is usually like we create a host name and in a particular OU in your AD, then you name your computer, then you use your account that has access to join the computer to the AD. Firstly, your OU concept is not available in the Microsoft Entra. So OU concepts, as we use in our ADDS, it doesn't appear in the Entra. So that's the first basic difference. So you don't have this OU structure at all. So it makes it very easily extensible, and its extensions are fully reversible. So the lack of support for the traditional computer domain membership means that you can't use Microsoft Entra ID to manage computers or user settings by using traditional management technique, GPO. So it's a very common technique to manage the computers and computer groups in our on-premises. We have this GPOs, we create policies, we set up the security policies and deployments and everything. We can use this GPO. So we don't have OU structure firstly, and we don't have this GPO support in the Entra ID. So instead, Entra ID uses its concept called modern management. So Microsoft Entra ID primarily strength lies in providing directory services, storing and publishing user, device and application data, and handling the authentication and authorization for users, devices and applications. So these are its primary functions and its strength. So it provides directory service, storing and publishing user, device, application data, and handling the authentication, authorization, identity management of devices, users and applications as well. The effectiveness and efficiency of these features are apparent based on existing deployments of cloud services such as Microsoft 365, which rely on Microsoft Entra ID as their identity provider and support millions of users. So Microsoft Entra ID doesn't include the OU class. So as mentioned, you don't have OU and you don't have this GPO service. So which means that you can't arrange it by object, hierarchy and customer containers, which frequently used in on-premises ADDS. However, this isn't a significant shortcoming because OUs in ADDS are primarily for GPOs, group policy scoping and delegations. So you can accomplish equivalent arrangement by organizing objects based on their group membership. So here we have this membership group. So we can group the users, group the computers to membership, and we apply the policies to the membership group. Objects are the applications and service principal classes represent applications in Microsoft Entra ID. So an object in the application class contains an application definition, and an object in the service principal class constitutes its instance in the current Microsoft Entra tenant. So application class will contain the application definition, so the details about the application. Then an object in the service principal class SPN. So this will contain the constitutes its instances in the current Microsoft Entra tenant. What instance is in the current Microsoft tenant? Then separating these two sets of characteristics allows you to define an application in one tenant and use it across multiple tenants by creating service principal object for the application in each tenant. So Microsoft Entra ID creates the service principal object when you register the corresponding application in that Microsoft Entra tenant. So if you're able to separate these two classes like application class and service principal object or service principal class, so this will allow you to define an application in one tenant and use it across multiple tenants. So you just have to create a service principal object in each application in each tenant, then it can be used. So it can be used in the across multiple tenants.